A NASA space probe has made history by flying closer to the sun than any other spacecraft. The Parker Solar Probe was out of communication with NASA for 3 days after coming within 6 million kilometers of the sun's surface. The probe was out of communication with NASA for 3 days after coming within 6 million kilometers of the sun's surface. Amazing temperatures of up to 1,000 Celsius. Amazing temperatures of up to 1,000 Celsius. The spacecraft will provide data about the properties of the sun and will help forecast space weather events that can affect life on Earth, as Pallab Ghosh reports.
It seems like science fiction, sending an uncrewed spacecraft to the sun. NASA's Parker Solar Probe was designed to withstand its scorching heat. But could it?
We have never had a human-made object so close to the sun. Also, we had to not melt. That's why the Parker has this heat shield that holds the instruments at room temperature. Also, we had to not melt. That's why the Parker has this heat shield that holds the instruments at room temperature and keeps the heat of the sun away. And these are just amazing feats. And so it's so amazing that we are so close and really getting to measure in detail this material up close.
And Pallab is with me now here in the studio. When I first saw this story, Pallab, my thought was, how did it not melt? My thought was, how did it not melt? How did it not melt? I mean, an amazing achievement, but coming so close to the sun.
How did it not melt? I mean, it was obviously designed not to melt. How did it not melt? I mean, it was obviously designed not to melt. It was obviously designed not to melt. It's got an experimental heat shield that keeps all the instruments at room temperature. Keeps all the instruments at room temperature. Keeps all the instruments at room temperature. Quite where this room is on Earth, one can only wonder. But it's worked. Just because you build something, it doesn't necessarily mean it will succeed. It has succeeded, and this is a huge triumph for NASA. And now, what we're waiting for is these results will show exactly how some of the processes in the sun work.
What sort of temperatures are we talking about? Because it's not just the temperatures, it's the radiation as well.
Well, there's a whole stream of numbers that are kind of a bit meaningless, but it's really, really hot. Well, there's a whole stream of numbers that are kind of a bit meaningless, but it's really, really hot. But it's really, really hot. One of the mysteries is that the sun's surface is about 500 times cooler than the atmosphere. A sun's surface is about 500 times cooler than the atmosphere, which can be up to 3 million degrees Celsius. And why that happens, no one knows. And the twisting and turning that you saw in my report, you think of the sun as this kind of featureless disk in the sky that's always there. A featureless disk in the sky that's always there. You think of the sun as this kind of featureless disk in the sky that's always there, but it's a tempestuous, moving object. So it's not just kind of science stuff, it's quite practical, useful stuff about how this thing that we see and see every day, maybe take for granted, actually works.
But these efforts, they're calling it to touch the sun, which I thought was nice. There are some sort of long-standing mysteries as well that they hope to discover.
Well, that's right. It is about these internal processes, because no one knows for sure how the sun works. There have been loads of missions to the sun. Astronomers have studied it through ground-based telescopes, but they say touching the sun is 4 million miles, but that's still very, very close, closer than any spacecraft has been before.
Amazing achievement. Pallab, thank you as always for bringing that to life for us.